Hi, how's it going? It's I don't remember what episode this is for the count of the pandemic. It's about 5 now or so.
No, I think we're like at like 18 or something.
It's now
It
2022. The
feels like
pandemic shutdown has yet to end. We are the Crafty Boys. We drink beer. We talk about it. There you go.
That's about it.
Basically it. And then we most likely end
That's
up
it.
talking
I mean-
about Star Wars, Star Trek, our own nudity, and Dave not being centered in frame.
Dying by bear, apparently.
But before we do that, after we talk about the beers that we're drinking, I do have some news to share with you guys. I doubt that any of you are aware of it, and to me it's kind of bad news. It's not definite, but we'll see how you guys react to it. Okay, but let's dive into our beers here.
Wait a minute! I want to know what the hell you're talking about. All right. What beer are you drinking today, Dave? What are you drinking? You were adventurous and went out to the liquor store.
So I had to go. I had no choice because I was beerless. So I ended up thinking this thing looked kind of trippy.
The Buddha's Priest Ale.
Buddha's Priest Ale, off the rail.
I love the name Buddha's Priest.
Here, Gallery.
Yes.
Hmm?
Yeah.
The longer you take, the more I
I
pour into
wonder
my
if it's a
glass.
painkiller.
What this is like. What? Who, Alan?
I said, I wonder if it's a painkiller.
Well, that could be argued.
Buddha's
yes.
Priest. Sorry.
Buddha's,
Wow.
Actually.
So, Locke, what are you drinking?
So, my latest delivery, we got.
What is going on with my hair?
Barnabas Habit 12.
Oh, that looks good. Just by the bottle.
We're talking a Belgian strong import from Belgium.
Yes.
I believe it clocks in at about 10%, so 12 doesn't refer to the.
I've seen that. I've seen it on the shelves here in Victoria, but I have not bought that particular one.
No, prior to Belgium, but we have a Quebec consignee refund message on the back. I don't know if that means that they market it to Quebecers more than places, or if this is a bottling situation, how all that works. But so anyway, I'm about to pop this bad boy.
All right. The beer I'm drinking tonight, the can has been taken away from my seating position. So it looks like this, and it is Parallel 49's Craft Pale Ale. It is
Incoming!
Oh, wait. Here we go. This is what the can looks like right there. The Craft Pale Ale from Parallel 49. And it comes in a tall can, and it is 5% alcohol by volume. And there is sadly no amazing little story on the can, except for all the Parallel 49 ones have this, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. That's the beer I'm having tonight. Alan, finish us off with what beer you're drinking.
All right, so I was drawn to this particular one. I've had it plenty of times before, but new packaging. So this is from House Sound Brewing. It is their Rail Ale Nut Brown Ale. It is a very flavorful beer. There isn't a lot of information about it. It clocks in at 5% alcohol by volume. 19 IBUs. This used until recently was only available in those large glass swing top bottles, the 1 liter ones. So this is the first time I've seen it in tall cans. So I thought, well, I'll have to get this.
Nice.
Because frankly, sometimes those big bottles is just too much, right? And really, who's going to
Big bottles. Big bottles. Sometimes
Right.
they're too much to handle. I don't like them.
So that's what it looks like in the glass. Very dark, very flavorful. It's good beer. Go get it.
It's good beer. Drink it now. Drink it now, or you will pay its price. So, yeah, it's the pandemic. Welcome back to not leaving your home for yet another week. And apparently we still have, according to the news yesterday, still at least another 6 weeks to go. We're all going to die. Just from complete and utter boredom. But that's okay because apparently it is, what is going on with hand sanitizer? What is that?
All right, so I gotta point this out. I gotta give a shout out to Phillips Brewing and Malting Company. What they have gone and done is they turned their line into making hand sanitizer. There's the bottle with the close up of the label. It's got this nice, cool sort of like vintage looking design to it. They even have to put a warning on it that says "Do not drink."
Yeah, 70%.
But anyway,
right?
They made this specifically for healthcare workers, and so since I'm a healthcare worker, I got a bottle of this today for free, and yeah, it's really cool. It smells like vodka. I'm not going to drink it. I will not ingest it. But that's what it's
On the
supposed
other side of this pandemic, there's going to be street people who will.
Oh, absolutely. It's true. I could probably take this out on the street and sell it for $100. I'm kidding. I probably couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it. I don't know how to sell this stuff. Yeah. I really wish that I had some hand sanitizer myself, but I don't because I have good old bar soap. Does the job. Doesn't kill everything.
Absolutely.
But, I scrub, and by all means, I haven't really gone outside all that much. I walk dogs, and I've been walking around, going up to Cambie Street Bridge and back kind of thing, and, but, when you're out in public, people are definitely following, at least in this city, following the whole social distancing thing, and when you go up, it's kind of amusing. There's this stairwell along False Creek that goes up from at sea level and then goes up to the top of the Cambie Street Bridge. And, it safely does about 2 people going up, side by side. And it's like when you're going up now, or down, it's like you had the bubonic plague, and you are going to basically kill everyone coming up and down. And, which, by all means, I totally give it a wide berth when going up those stairs because I've been using them to go up and down for some heart stuff. But the big thing for me this week in terms of the pandemic is that Netflix actually has put together, partnering with a docu-film company of some sort, called Coronavirus Explained. And it was actually, I just watched it a little bit ago. It is quite informative. It's actually very straightforward kind of stuff that you've already heard in the news, a lot of it. But some of the things that they actually talk about how deadly the disease is what I really enjoyed. But essentially, this coronavirus is being compared to the 1918 outbreak of the Spanish flu, which is, but it's slightly less. There's these great graphs. I recommend if you have Netflix, check it out. But essentially, they're saying that this is slightly less contagious than the Spanish flu, but more so than a whole bunch of other things. And if you are in a country that is able to and is telling people to basically, as Justin tells us, to go home and stay there, that's the right thing to do because we don't want herd immunity right now because instead of, in our country, several thousand people dying and in other countries with thousands upon thousands dying, we, of course, would have in the millions if we decided all to suddenly go back to work tomorrow. Or to not just that, but to socialize with people face to face and handshakes and hugs and kisses and puppies. So, I recommend it. I enjoyed it as much as any documentary as you can enjoy one, but it was a bit more relevant. And by the way, narrated by J.K. Simmons, who is another one of those actors that you loved watching him on screen, but hearing him is just as good. So that's my big revelation for this week. And I also discovered something else. I like beer.
Good. How do you like that beer?
This beer is... I've had this before somewhere, I'm pretty sure. It's quite good. It's actually a bit sweet. Like it has a small sort of hit of sweetness on it. I'm not sure why. I do have other cans of it. I'll investigate further, but...
I'm sure you will.
But when you drink it, I gotta say, it's not terrible. I really wanted to know about the beer you have, Mark.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yes,
if you want. Right. So what I am pleasantly surprised by, I was expecting, so of my shipment, I had actually originally selected 3 of these. Only one of them showed up. So the other ones were replaced with Chimay, which are sweet and sort of
something you should just mail to Dave.
7% and not the same product. But what I'm pleased about with this is actually prior. So the fermentation, they seem to have really taken it all the way. Like they've kind of really converted out, most of the sugar, which I imagine there must have been plenty of to begin with. This is one of those Belgians that has multiple fermentations, although it doesn't say how many. It doesn't say, this is a triple or a quadruple or anything like that. Bottle fermentation is something that gets mentioned. But in terms of the drink itself, yeah, so pleasantly, surprisingly dry. Sort of a little bit of a Flemish broom kind of a flavor. Not but that sort of big, sort of malty darkness. That's coming through a lot. Fizzy, as your Belgians tend to be. So
right.
It's kind of it's having a little bit of a champagne effect on my brain right now, which I'm pleasantly enjoying. I'll be a little tipsy going forward here. Dave?
I am pleasantly surprised with mine, actually. It's nice. I wasn't expecting a lot. It's an ale. I don't get super excited about ales or pilsners, I guess. But yeah, this has some nice flavor on it, and it's fairly light. They actually classify this as an ESB. Yeah, it claims medium caramel and crystal malts. And it says that it actually contains 46 international beer. So
can't go wrong with that.
Well, that's a little weird because normally I'm the guy that's all like, give me -60 beer units, please. So I'm a little surprised that this one I am enjoying as much as I am. And I keep forgetting, is the scale like 100? Is that where it tops or what?
Of international beer units?
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about
the top end of this.
You're talking about like the IBU scale of
Hoppy,
well,
to the uninitiated, these are sometimes bitter.
Yeah, the IBUs are calculated based on, and hence the name, the International Bittering Unit is actually what it's called. But the way that I talk about it is that if it's really bitter, it's going to probably range barley wine-ish kind of level, where you have that sort of nice barley taste, but it is really bitter. All the way down to like lagers, which are 5-ish to 10-ish to 15-ish, somewhere in there. But then of course you have what are those things you like to drink? Spritzers? No, what are they called, Dave? The beer that you like to drink in foreign lands?
Yeah. The hell is it? Radlers.
Radlers.
Yeah.
Like Radlers, and lambics a bit, sort of, but not. I don't think as much as those. But essentially, if you have a beer that has fruit, then you will have the ability to feel the lightest bitterness possible in a beer. So, yeah.
So
I mean,
the
it,
initial one though, Shane, you didn't give a number to, so something that's really like a barley one you mentioned.
yeah, the barley ones. Yeah.
So what kind of rating is that gonna get?
I remember that one of the barley wines that Alan and I had, the IBU was 100. So the scale is, yes, basically 0 to 100. But I don't think that there's really anything that's like 1. Maybe in the fruit beer kind of realm. But essentially, yeah, it's one of those things that I mean, we call them international beer units because international bittering unit is kind of boring. But essentially, yeah, no, you've got that sort of that bitterness thing because when you're brewing beer, you tend to have a bittering hop, and then after that, you usually will put in some sort of aromatic hop or some something that gives it a unique flavor, something that plays well with whatever else you're putting into it, like oats or whatever. But or different malts, that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, if you were to brew beer with like nothing added to it, you just take your barley or you take your whatever and you throw it in together and you ferment it up. Those will be on the lower end of the scale. If you add hops to them, of course, which you should because that's real beer, then you will, of course, land into the higher things. And higher, I mean, higher to me is like 30-ish, that sort of thing. Because most beers are sort of between 20 and 30, at least from stuff that we've had. But of course, then you have like fat tugs, which go even further, but they're not necessarily bitters. They're more into the sort of aromatics and the flavorful ones. So, and then of course, as I said before, the barley wines are kind of the most bitter because they are fermented. But they're also barreled. They're also they're aged, which increases bitterness. So that's why those tend to have that sort of 50 to 100, like imperial stouts, right? Imperial stouts are on the higher end, not 100, but they're 50, 60, 70 ish, in there. So you have those kinds of things that you'll want to look out for. So did I actually see really an IBU? I don't see an IBU on this can, but it's a pale ale, so it's pretty 20 to 30, maybe 40, but I doubt it. And Locke, you are the beer connoisseur of the IPA realm, so what would you consider to be like the hop circle, or is it Trash Panda? Is Trash Panda an IPA?
Yes, it is.
So, I mean, those kinds of ones that are very common, sort of as the cheaper end of IBUs. What the hell am I saying? Cheaper end of IPAs. Blah. That's, at least from my experience, that is sort of where that world lands. So Locke, again, you're the expert. Tell us, educate us.
I'm sure I've drunk IPAs that are listed as having IBUs higher than 100. So I don't think it's a percentage scale.
No, it's not.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I'm one of those people that like strong flavors. So yeah, like I mean, I'm pretty sure that your double IPAs and your imperial IPAs, like I feel like Green Flash, their imperial IPA is up there in terms of its IBUs. I think that's 100 plus. So Green Flash, they're definitely competitive in that level. I don't know. I'm trying to think what I mean, there was a period of time, I'm thinking kind of like 4 or 5 years ago now, where there was a kind of a scorched earth thing going on with bittering, where everybody was trying to make the most insanely hopped beer ever.
Yeah.
And after a point, I started to, I mean, you know, at some point you're masking sort of a lack of subtlety by just, you know, hammering down the, you know, like something that ultimately is a bit like.
Sorry. I just flashed back to like 25 years ago. I was like, that's why Alan decided to have children. It was because they would bring you beer and open it for you. That's the only reason.
Appears to be a Bally peanut.
Yeah, I'm having a Corona in honor of our situation.
I think you know, if you're going down the road of you know, of your sort of your high topping out your IBUs, you know, like I would like there to be a little bit of an angle to, you know, why you're doing that beyond just you want to see if you can. Like if you're doing that and it's got a sort of an arrow, sort of, I don't know, kind of like a piney quality or something, you know, like if you're selecting your hops to create, you know, a really an overpowering but precise effect, I mean, that's one thing. But if you're just doing it to mask, you know, amateurish brewing, that's sort of another, right? And you know, I think the other thing to consider is that, you know, the addition of hops initially was, I mean, the point was it was a preservative. You were trying to keep beer from going off. And so, you know, with your IPAs, the whole idea was, you know, you're going to double the hops, you're going to increase the alcohol content, because that way you can ship it more effectively.
And that was specifically for the troops, the British troops in India at the time, and they were brewing the beer in Britain, and it needed to survive the voyage from Britain down.
Yeah. Exactly. But traditionally, there have been all kinds of eccentric ways of preserving beer. Your smoke beers, so some of them they
I find it's really difficult to get the beer inside the rolling papers for the smoke.
Indeed.
Sorry. Never mind. Continue.
Yeah, the day, and that was when the podcast died.
I'll tell you what there are people doing is, you know, about so above and beyond adding bittering agents, you know, about adding CBD now to beer as a thing, right?
No, I didn't know that. What? Tell me more.
So where I first encountered it in Portland, where ultimately the weed industry, because the U.S. federally still considers marijuana to be a crime. So you've got states like Oregon, where marijuana has been legal for over a decade. And so the growers have far more capacity than they know what to do with. And so ultimately, there's all this product that sits around, and it's sort of like, well, what do we do with all this stuff? And so somebody thought, well, okay, I know what we do. We can take the CBD from the marijuana and put it in beer. Why not? I mean, I would have been more excited if they put the THC in the beer, but let's start with CBD, right?
Okay, so this actually, I was thinking about this week. Because with legalization coming like now over a year ago, they were talking about at the time that weed beer was going to be this big thing, and it hasn't come to pass. Like I haven't seen one. So what's the deal with that? Like,
yeah, I think probably it's one of those things that, like, I don't know if you've been into one of these Government of Canada weed stores, or you know, like approved legal weed stores. Yeah, right. Like the packaging on these things, it's like they'll have a cardboard box around a plastic tub with a child-safe lid covered in tin foil. It's like a Russian dolls thing where you got to open the thing to open the thing to open the thing to open the thing. Eventually, there's a little bit of weed. So, you know, I think the regulatory on is still kind of finding its feet and they're figuring out what's feasible, what's sensible, what, you know, and so I imagine that if you're an established company brewing beer, you already are protective of your license to do that. So are you gonna push people's buttons by just, you know, jumping in and going, hey, we'll be the first to do the, you know, a weed beer.
Right.
In the weed stores, you know, for all that they're selling edibles, you know, do we have a license to sell alcohol? No. Do we want to jeopardize our license to sell weed by putting alcohol in our weed? I don't know if we want to go there yet. So I'm thinking it's coming, but it's, yeah. I mean, in Canada, you know, legalization has happened relatively recently. Weird thing about the states is state by state. There's a lot of states where it's been legal for a long time, but federally it's a crime, and so interstate commerce is impossible, meaning that has knock-on effects like weed growers can't use normal banks. So what do? Stuff the cash into a mat. It happens. I've read the case law. So yeah. So it's a world that's evolving new regulatory postures, and those same regulatory postures are now going to have to adjust to whatever the COVID-19 business is going to have in store for us.
Yeah.
But I got to say, sheltering at home, there are big trucks going around delivering weed beer.
You know, I have noticed that there is there are several places that are now delivering weed to your home, which I thought was kind of interesting because, you know, I'm not much of a weed connoisseur, but you know, I do. I'm kind of more of an edible kind of dude. You know, I'm not down with the smoking really all that much because, you know, my lungs don't like it either. But
and days when there's a respiratory disease floating around.
Well, yeah, well, exactly. I mean, there's actually been a lot of people worried now because they've been, you know, they picked up vaping and things like that, and now they're concerned that if they do contract COVID, that it could, you know, put them in. You know,
it's like having a pre-existing medical condition.
Exactly.
It's a huge concern. Huge concern.
So I'm lucky that I've never really been a smoker of anything, really. I think I tried cigarettes once, and that was brutal. I remember it was like, you know, yeah, okay, I'll try it. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, same here. Same
so,
here.
You know, that was many, many eons ago, back in probably the 90s, I would think. And so yeah, so it's not really been a thing. So, but you know, edibles, I'm down with. And I've actually never tried gummies. Actually, to be honest, there's gummies.
Okay,
as well.
okay. So I have to ask, because I was kind of investigating this at one point, and it was, you know, like they sold like stuff that you could smoke and vapes and stuff and edibles, and supposedly I was surprised by this, suppositories. Like what?
You know, not really my thing either. Unless I absolutely need them.
There's a little band from Texas called the Butthole Surfers. Who knows what that means?
Yeah.
It used to be a thing.
Thank you for reminding me. But oh god,
it used to be a thing to get fucked up by blowing smoke in your ass, right?
Actually, I remember I was listening to this is going back a number of years, but if you've ever listened to the podcast of Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, one of their earlier episodes, like the first 15 episodes, were basically Kevin Smith grilling Jason Mewes about his drug use, and not grilling is a bit harsh. They were basically, that's what they talked about, because that was, I think, foremost on their minds. And I think people that are fans of those particular creators, that's what they wanted to hear about, because it was not a secret that Jason Mewes was a drug user. And so one of the stories he was talking about was he called up, he somehow stumbled into somebody's home that he knew, but he didn't know very well or hadn't seen for some time. And he was looking for a place to shoot up. So he said he hung out for a little bit. He's like, oh, I need to use the bathroom, with the intent to shoot up in the bathroom. But somewhere along the way, he broke his syringe. So he actually broke the thing, so he couldn't use it. So he tried sticking the broken syringe with the drug up his butt and injecting it into his butt, because that's what he had read somewhere, or somebody had told him that was a thing that you could do in a pinch, right? So I don't recall if he got high off of that, or if he actually experienced any sort of reaction to it. But yeah, that's apparently a thing.
I imagine he experienced some kind of reaction. Not necessarily a good one.
I think this is an issue that also got dealt with in the movie Trainspotting.
Was that in Trainspotting? I don't remember that at all.
I think I feel that it was.
Trainspotting is one of those films I'm intending to watch again, because the sequel, Trainspotting 2, came out a few years back, and I wanted to see it, but I ended up not, because I felt, if I'm going to see this again, I'm going to have to go back and rewatch the first one. I tried reading the novel of Trainspotting. Holy hell. It's like trying to read a foreign language, because it's written in the dialect of the region, and it's hard to read because if you've never been there, not the whole thing all the way through, but there's vast passages that it's like I just read 3 pages and I have no idea what I was reading. I have no clue.
It was like reading Shakespeare, maybe.
Well, at least in Shakespeare you can understand, but the thing is, you've got this really deep slang. Have you ever read Shakespeare?
Some people.
You have not read Shakespeare until you've read it in the original Klingon.
I find Shakespeare easy to understand. Then again, I grew up with the 17th century being normal.
Yeah, I never had trouble reading Shakespeare either. But it's kind of weird. What you can't read, Dave? Dave, are you one of the slow children?
Okay, I wanna tell you guys about the little bit of maybe bad news. I don't know.
Okay.
I put a link into the into our little chat here, so you guys can find access to the article. The Bird of Paradise pub, which has been closed recently due to the coronavirus, like everybody else. Well, apparently, the building is slated to be possibly demolished to make way for a 251 suite condominium project.
No!
Yes.
I refuse! The line must be drawn in the sand here and no further!
Well, that's what we need in the age of coronavirus, more density, right?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think this might change people's expectations of living? Like, will it actually change developers kind of going, well,
look, the mantra of density is one that city planners have been on for a long time. For them to kick that habit, I see that being difficult. But and as far as developers go, I mean, I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, there's some developers that are interested in essentially selling what are politely referred to as investment properties, right? Which is to say that for rental units, nobody would ever want to live in square footage that makes my closet look generous. But we'll build one anyway because we can pawn them off on people who think they're buying investment units, and then it'll be their job, because we're going to condo the building. It'll be their job to market it, and we don't care. Build it and sell it. Bait and switch, flip it, move on. So there's that mentality as well. I don't know what this would be. I've got to say, I think I'm doubtful as to the merits of putting density condominiums there. I don't know why you would do that. What a great view of what the highway, like.
Yeah. Well, okay, so something in the article that
the zoning, I'm also curious, because that's just down the block from what is now a whiskey distillery.
Yeah.
So
one of the post locations in the neighborhood too. Like I think that's their central Vancouver Island location, is it not? For Canada Post.
If they were doing something mixed use, work live, that would be plausible. But I don't see density condominium going. That just doesn't make any sense. And for that matter, if you put the condominiums in there, where's the amenities? Oh, right, you just knock them down to build the condominium, right?
Yeah. They did say that the proposal would call for retail space on the main floor with possibly a pub, which, the Bird of Paradise could, I guess, go in there. But that's not definite or anything. But one thing in this article that kind of makes me sort of question the validity of it is that it talks about the Bird of Paradise being shut down since 2013, which is true, but then was reopened last year. And in fact, Shane and I went there just a couple of months ago, I guess, not even 2 months ago, and into the new revamped Bird of Paradise pub, and it was actually really nice. Like I said that I would go there all the time, and then it got shut down because of the coronavirus, like the next week or the week after that, or within 2 weeks or something. But beautiful place that they just reopened. I don't think that they're going to, the building itself is old. It's an old house. I don't know. Shane, how old is the Bird of Paradise pub? Like the actual building itself?
It's
gotta be 100.
It's quite old. Like it's not a new building by any means, but yeah.
If you wanted to challenge this thing going through, I think one angle you might play is this is a heritage. We don't knock those down. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is there a way we could actually look that up somewhere?
Well, it's up for rezoning with Saanich. There's actually a sign on the front lawn that says, rezoning application, blah, blah, blah. So
that means there will be a public meeting involved. And if you wanted to,
yes,
you would go to the meeting. Or in the age of coronavirus, what does that mean? Can you attend the meeting without attending the meeting?
I don't know.
I suspect that no meetings will take place until well after it's done.
Yeah, probably.
Until well after. No, it's going to be a while.
It even says in the article nothing's going to be decided until 2021 at the very early.
Yeah,
you can probably look that up because there's probably somewhere on Saanich's website that you can probably find out what the age of the building is, what the age of the property is, that kind of stuff. Age of the property, age of the that area, and sort of give you an idea of sort of what kind of thing it is. So.
So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up to you guys because the Bird of Paradise is like an old haunt for us. I mean, we all, like Shane and I, we grew up in this neighborhood, and that was when we became of drinking age, that was our place to go to, was the Bird of Paradise pub. And there's a possibility it may close down to make way for a condominium project, which kind of sucks. I think
it's so sad. That area is underserved for pubs and stuff like that.
If that's the, my God, is that the image attached to it? Is that?
I know.
Part of the
that's the proposed building.
That is a rubbish idea. Nobody should build that thing. It's obviously a garbage building. Look at
it. In like a residential area. I mean, it's just like single family housing around. I mean,
yeah.
An idiot idea.
We should find that person's address and go there and take off our clothes and scream on their front lawn and moon them. Totally should moon them. You're right. That's how we should do that.
Let's give them coronavirus.
Wow, that is actually right. These days, that is a threat.
That's bad. That's bad. I'm sorry. I take that back. I apologize. We don't like your plan, but we won't. We're not gonna give you coronavirus for it.
I was gonna say that there's something to be said for I can't say it out loud. My mind went dark there, and I really can't. I'm not going to say what I was just thinking.
Yeah. So speaking of going dark, so I was watching Motherland. Has anybody seen? Like, I needed to full time podcast to start, so I thought I'd explore around a bit, and I'd seen a little bit of the what is it, the first episode, and I was like, this is, I can't, no. It's, if I were to describe it, I'd say it's sort of like a cross between, so you're familiar with The Magicians, which is like kind of like a weird window into, like what millennials think reality looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine a red state Magicians crossed with a Nazi youth, like sales video. It's basically
weird.
It's really not something I've seen before, which for that fact, I kind of like it in the sense that this is sort of interesting. Like it's very raw nationalist states. We're like nationalists, and we're gonna make the world bend to our will, and we're gonna use Satanism and witchcraft to do it, only with Jesus, and it's like, kind of like what? It's like. Yeah.
I think I know the show you're talking about, because the Motherland, isn't that filmed here in Vancouver?
Could be. I don't know.
I seem to recall it was. Yeah.
The Magicians is. Yeah, it's very strange.
I want to check this out.
If you want to see the sort of like what the Reds millennial crazy town might look like, this is an interesting place to visit. I'm glad I don't. Then again, I'm glad I don't live in the crazy Magicians millennial reality either. You know what I mean? Like it's all like really intense, like in that youthful way that like emo was intense but so unlistenable.
Emo was intense. I can't think of any emo that I've ever thought of as being intense.
Well, intensely unlistenable.
Okay. Now I got it, yeah. That I could buy. So sad that we have to start delving into programming like the show you just described, because we've run out of everything else.
Well, yeah, there is a bit of that going on. So now that said, I've been pleasantly surprised by the good stuff that actually is out there available to watch. Although the dubbed version on Netflix is difficult because of the dubbing, as voiceover dubbing often is. If you can get a hold of the subtitled version of Babylon Berlin, oh my god, wow, really cool. Hits a lot of buttons for me. So interesting history. Really like awesomely sort of authentic, sort of late 20s, early 30s sort of art movements, combined with some good action, shoot 'em up, stab 'em up kind of fight scenes, some real suspense, some genuinely like twisted plot structure, interesting characters. Man, no, very well done. I don't know what they're spending on it, but I gather it's a German production, with German languages as sort of the primary. So yeah, but yeah, totally gripping stuff. Another good one that I chanced upon, Gangs of London. So if you're wondering what the cast of uh, Game of Thrones did, after Game of Thrones ended, imagine setting that kind of bloodthirsty drama in contemporary London. Again, amazing fight scenes. The fight choreography is sort of something that it standalone, that it's worth it for that. What else have I been watching? Oh man, this whole sheltering in place or distancing or isolating, whatever the hell you call it, television.
I'm trying to think of something that I've seen lately that is worth mentioning, but I haven't. I mean, I've binged lately on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is a half-hour show from it's been around for a little while. What else
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Season 7 just came out, by the way. If you
Yeah, no, I know.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, I'm just watching season 6.
It just came out. I just noticed. Yeah, 7 is released.
I'm trying to think of what
I watched a good movie last night on Netflix called Game Night, which has Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdam in it, as well as some other people. And it was entertaining. It was a lot of fun. I was enthralled throughout the whole thing, wildly entertained. I don't know really if it's like a great movie or anything, but whatever. It kept my mind off things for an hour and a half or whatever.
Dave, thoughts?
Jeez, I would be up to my tits in TV if I just let myself go in there. But no, like what have I checked out recently? C, which is actually an Apple TV thing, and I don't know how much I like that, honestly, because I've only watched the first episode. I think literally just the pilot. Anyways, it's Jason Momoa's latest, and the premise is interesting. The basic is that Earth succumbed to this monster plague, and the survivors ended up blind. Yeah. So everybody that survived is blind. I'm having a little trouble getting past the survivors being able to actually survive when they're blind, because, yes, blind people absolutely learn to live minus that sense, but that's kind of because there's all of us sighted people. You know what I mean? In a way, like, if everybody's blind, how are you going to keep your shit together? How are you going to farm? How are you going to hunt if that's where you get to?
Let me say this. They would figure out their own way. It may not be the same way as you would do it, Dave, or I would do it, but they would find a way to do it themselves, and they would do it just as well, if not better than.
So here's a question I have: does the show provide any answers to the asked?
Well, I think it does. Again, I just watched the pilot, right? So to be fair, I don't know what you guys usually find, but I find pilots are just kind of I'm left not necessarily understanding the whole thing, but I expect that in a way because
Yeah.
there's a
If
lot
they
of
get
setup
all the
that
way
needs
in the
to
first,
happen.
yeah.
Yeah, especially I find with modern television, um, I find that the stories are kind of they're large. There's a lot that they want to cover, and I think sometimes they struggle with giving a powerful, understandable intro to the world that's being created by the writers because there are so many there's so many storylines, there's so many characters that they fight to make a compelling
Mm.
pilot, right? Because somehow you need to cram all of this shit in here and get people like, oh my God, this looks so fucking awesome. I'm going to be watching this thing for the next 7 seasons, right? And I personally, I kind of give the writers a bit of breathing room. I'm like, okay, this is the pilot. I'm not expecting to be necessarily blown away by it. And yet it happens, I'm really gripped by a pilot and it's just like, yeah, I'm going to watch this freaking show. It's awesome. But then other times you're like, okay, it's intriguing. I'm going to stick with it for another few episodes and see where it goes. Because again, I think writers these days do have a huge hill to climb in terms of getting all of that really juicy, to use a strange word for it, all this really juicy stuff packed into a single freaking hour, if they're lucky, if they're doing one of these, maxi HBO type shows, where they do have a little bit more space in terms of minutes to pack that stuff into. But I think they do struggle. So I'm willing to give these guys a bit of breathing room and say, okay, that was intriguing enough. It may not have really grabbed me, but it grabbed me enough that I'm going to give these guys a few episodes to see where they go with it. And C is kind of like that. So it's neat. And Alan makes a point, they do find a way to make it work. I guess being a sighted person, I can't relate to this at all, right? Where I can't envision a world where everybody is blind and they're able to still care for themselves in terms of creating shelters and hunting and finding the food, the basics of survival we're talking about here, right? So I guess it'll be interesting
So is
because I
that,
think we're going to keep watching to see how it
is
goes.
modern day, like contemporary world?
It is not contemporary. This is, oh man, perhaps even in the hundreds of years in the future. But I think I'm exaggerating. But it is many decades at the very least in the future.
So right, so they may have automatons working for them that can see. Is I guess
No, dude, they are stripped back. Seriously, there is no tech. Oh yeah, they're back to
well. Yeah.
staffs, wooden weapons, flint weaponry. I mean, it's neat to see the ingenuity that these folks use to get around their world. Um, again,
All right. Look, whatever else I can say. Everything you just told me, my curiosity peaked.
yeah, yeah. No, it is interesting. Downside it is Apple TV. So if you're not wanting to be getting yet another subscription, then you may need to look for alternative source, shall we say.
So did you watch any Raven then? If you're watching some Apple TV,
Sorry, say again?
Raven's Banquet. What is it? Something or other quest Raven's Banquet. Like it's the team from Always Sunny
Okay.
Doing a sitcom about a game company, and
I'm intrigued.
I've watched the whole thing. I liked it. I laughed.
Okay.
I mean, it's not amazing or anything, but it's sort of as a gamer myself, I enjoyed looking at the lighter side of how games companies work, because anybody that's ever like gotten into a game and you were like, why did they do that? And then you sort of undress it all in terms of the most cynical possible, reality behind, said, move or change or whatever it was to the game. It was on point.
I will have to keep that in mind. Definitely. But yeah, there's an embarrassment of riches. There is an embarrassment of riches these days, I would say, in terms of good quality TV that we can be watching. And that's why I say I'd be up to my tits in TV if I allowed myself. So.
I'm just trying to think of what that would look like. What would that look like? I mean, really, when you think about it.
I'm using an English expression I think Locke would appreciate.
By the way, in the chat here,
I'm kind of imagining Dave by Janet and Chrissy from Three's Company.
So true. By the way, in the chat, a recommendation says that Dave, you should stop talking about your man boobs. But you should also see Bird Box. That's a recommendation from somebody in the chat.
Okay.
A longtime viewer of the show, my sister. It also says, hi, Locke.
She didn't say hi to me?
No, she said, what did she say? Something disparaging about you. What was that? Grow some hair? Borrow Shane's hair. That's what it is. There you go.
Borrow Shane's
I've got lots to spare. You want some? I can hack some off and mail it to you.
If you wash it first.
You
I have washed it.
Shane, when you do that.
All right, here we go.
That's fully eaten.
Oh wait, hi Alan Ford. There you go. Yeah, Alan. My sister said hi to you there. My God, you're such a whiner. Like, oh God, man. Like, oh.
Hey, do you like Flock of Seagulls?
I have to say, the film Pulp Fiction ruined Flock of Seagulls for me, because Flock of Seagulls, after the first or second thing he says, gets shot and killed. So there you go. So every time I hear Flock of Seagulls, I hear I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing after like blowing Flock of Seagulls away. By the way, Alan, you are awesome and amazing. So there you go.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Shane.
Love from the chat.
Okay.
I think you're tall. Or no, wait, not even that. God, Locke's tall. What am I talking about? Dave, you're short.
Yeah.
Alan and I are medium height ish.
Yeah.
So we've actually just broken the 60-minute mark.
Right.
Any other final words, people? I know it's late for Locke there, so
Yeah.
I bequeath all my belongings to all of you, I guess.
Sweet. I'll take the Laserdisc player. I'm gonna make away with a steal. Oh man. Of all
Dibs
the
on the
things.
Star Wars game.
That's right. It's just because I want that laser disc of Star Wars. That's why. But I need something to play it on.
That's the only reason why I bought it.
Exactly.
So wait,
The original release.
Sorry, what?
You actually
Is
have
it the original release?
I actually have a Laserdisc player, and I have the Star Wars Definitive Collection on Laserdisc.
Laser discs?
Yeah. And
that is like a nostalgia moment just owning up to that fact. The fact that
totally.
you can play it impresses the hell out of me. That is
totally. And I have the definitive edition of the Star Wars Laserdisc, which is the original theatrical cuts, not the special edition. So there's pre-special edition stuff. So, Han shoots first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to dig that thing out.
My sister says she has a disc player.
Really?
I don't know why.
I actually have mini discs and no player.
We have a key and a keymaster here.
Hold on. After COVID sorts itself out, I may need to discuss with your sister the option of borrowing said mini disc to make backups of whatever the hell's on those things.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. On that note, thank you all for watching. Please come again next week. We might do a show on Saturday. We kind of flaked out this Saturday because I was drunk. But anyway, there you go. Share the show. Tell people all about it. Make sure that we, spread the Crafty Boys lore. And also, I am sad to announce that we are not going to get a fourth edition of John Wick anytime soon. They've had to delay because Keanu Reeves decided to work on some film called The Matrix 4 at this time. So there you go. So if you're looking at the John Wick fans, if you're out there, there you go.
Like, why?
What's that? So I saw Alan's hand waving around. But anyway, until next week, if not before.
Dude.
On that note, Alan, take us out. Or not.
I'm doing it. You can't hear that?